Hey folks, Brian Blessing in Las Vegas, bangthebook.com, and we're talking Stanley Cup futures and opportunities for you on the wagering board here in the final couple weeks of the regular season. Don't forget the sports betting podcast with our buddy Adam Burke. Follow me on Twitter at Brian Blessing. Now, this week in the NHL, things are starting to sort itself out in terms of the teams that will compete for the Stanley Cup. You got battles for the eighth and final spot in both the East and the West. But there's a real hodgepodge of who's fighting for divisions and who's looking for home ice advantage in the first round. There are a lot of big games this week in the NHL, and I would just say that Chicago circled the wagons, and you look for motivation. Their season was absolutely on the line. They threw the sink at Colorado. Grubauer almost beat them, but they did win in overtime to stay alive. So Chicago's not out of it yet. And then you look at some of the tough schedules moving up down the road. So big games on Tuesday. Chicago's at Arizona and Carolina at Washington. Big games in the East. Of course, Washington's still vying for a division. Everybody wants to avoid Tampa early on. Wednesday, the big game. Vegas is at Colorado, and the Avs fighting desperately for that eighth spot. And if Vegas knocks them off, that opens the door for Arizona, Minnesota, and even Chicago. Thursday, Washington at Carolina. Chicago got to keep it going. They got to get a streak going at San Jose, and then Montreal at Columbus. Columbus goes all in, and they are on the outside looking in. Montreal desperately fighting to get in that eighth spot. Big game Friday, Arizona at Colorado, Minnesota at Vegas. Vegas is going to have a say here on who gets in the West. Then Saturday, Vegas at San Jose should be a really interesting game because they likely will play each other in the first round of the playoffs. And Vegas is making a push here, has a chance to get home ice advantage, second place in the Pacific over San Jose. And then Sunday, the big one would be Minnesota, Arizona. So you look at these games that really are almost like playoff games, and that's why the 8th seed, the 7th seed, those are dangerous teams because they've been playing playoff hockey just to get in. From a Stanley Cup futures perspective, we know Tampa Bay, flat-out monster, trying to set a record. They got to win out, and they can tie the all-time record in the NHL. Under 3-1 to win the Cup, very deserving. But if you're looking for value, Vegas made a big dip down with the push they've made. I still say the value play is Nashville at 14-1. A real opportunity for them. They got to get by Winnipeg, but I think with that defensive core, and if Rennie steps up tall, I think Nashville is still the main danger in the West from a value perspective. And the other one in the East, I take a long, hard look at Washington. They're playing with house money. They won the Cup. Ovechkin, the monkey's off his back. If Holtby comes up with good goaltending, special teams can make the Caps very interesting in the Eastern Conference. So looking at the push in the playoffs, situations, team looking to get in, teams looking for home ice, teams looking to win division. Motivation's a big part. Look for those teams that are eliminated when they play each other, no checking. They're like pond hockey games. You can find those opportunities where the games go over the total. But from a futures perspective, maybe the time is now. We know who these teams are, how they're constructed. I say Nashville in the West and Washington, a team to look at in the East, heading towards the Stanley Cup playoffs.